The stars had never seemed so distant. From the vantage point of Earth's orbit, Captain Marcus King watched the holographic display flicker, showing the fractured state of the once mighty Galactic Coalition. The alliance of dozens of races, forged over centuries, was crumbling under the shadow of a new, relentless enemy known only as the Voidborn. The Voidborn were unlike any threat the galaxy had faced before. Neither fully mechanical nor organic, they consumed entire star systems with eerie precision. Worlds disappeared without warning, swallowed by darkness and silence. Panic rippled through the coalition, and the fragile unity shattered as fear took hold. One by one, the coalition races withdrew their fleets and forces from the front lines. Old alliances turned into cold shoulders, and messages from former partners stopped arriving. Earth found itself abandoned in the War Council chamber beneath the surface of the capital city. The atmosphere was thick with tension. President Alara Mendoza stood before the gathered military leaders and diplomats. Her voice steady despite the storm of doubt around her. "They've left us," she said simply. "Every race but us." Every ally turned their backs. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some urged surrender, arguing that resistance was futile without support. Others called for desperate diplomacy, begging the remaining powers to reconsider. Marcus clenched his fists. The thought of giving up was unthinkable. Outside the chamber, the streets of Earth buzzed with nervous energy. News broadcasts filled the airwaves, showing footage of distant worlds falling into darkness, yet beneath the fear, a fierce determination was growing. Humanity would not bow down. At a press conference, Alara addressed the world. "We stand alone, but we will not stand down. Our strength is in our unity and resolve. If abandoned, then we fight alone. Together, we will defend our home and those who still seek refuge." Across the globe, citizens responded. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Scientists worked around the clock, adapting salvaged alien tech and developing new weapons. Factories switched to wartime production, turning out warships, armor, and supplies. Marcus was assigned to lead an elite strike force, a unit forged to be the sharp edge of Earth's defense. His soldiers came from every walk of life: farmers, engineers, teachers, all transformed by the reality of war into warriors. They trained relentlessly, learning to fight not just with guns and ships but with their wits and what as Earth prepared. Scouts reported incoming Voidborn scouting parties probing the outer colonies. The first battles loomed on the horizon. In the quiet moments before dawn, Marcus gazed up at the stars. The galaxy was vast, and humanity was now alone. But within that solitude burned a fierce light: hope, courage, and the unyielding human spirit. They had been abandoned by every race, but Earth would not fall. They would fight alone, and they would fight to win. The void left by the Coalition's abandonment was filled with urgency. Earth's skies buzzed with activity as military vessels launched from sprawling shipyards, their hulls gleaming with hastily retrofitted alien technology and human ingenuity. Factories once dedicated to civilian needs now churned out weapons, armor, and starships at an unprecedented pace. In the heart of the capital, the Strategic Command Center was a hive of calculated chaos. Captain Marcus King stood over a table covered with star maps and data streams, surrounded by scientists, engineers, and military officers. Each face bore the weight of their task, to prepare humanity's defense when no one else would. "Come, resource constraints are severe," Dr. Leon Chen said, her fingers dancing over holographic schematics. "We don't have the luxury of mass-producing alien-grade energy weapons. Instead, we're combining what we have: human engineering, salvaged tech, and new energy modulators. It's not perfect, but it works." Marcus nodded. "We don't need perfect. We need effective." Around the globe, millions of civilians volunteered for training programs. Former teachers, farmers, and office workers became soldiers, learning to wield advanced weaponry, pilot starships, and coordinate with newly developed AI systems. Humanity's spirit, once focused on exploration and discovery, now burned bright with determination and grit. The training grounds outside the capital were filled with the sounds of drills and commands. Soldiers endured grueling exercises designed to forge mental and physical resilience. Their instructors emphasized adaptability and creativity, qualities Earth's enemies underestimated. Lieutenant Zerakim, a former engineer turned squad leader, drilled her unit with relentless intensity. "The enemy fights like a machine," she told them, "but we're human. We think. We improvise. That's our advantage. Remember, every weakness we find in their tactics is a victory." In the bustling labs, scientists worked side by side with soldiers. Marcus visited frequently, eager to witness progress. Each breakthrough, whether a new shield technology or a more efficient propulsion system, was celebrated as a step toward survival. Meanwhile, Earth's leaders faced constant pressure. Diplomatic efforts to reform old alliances had failed. The galaxy's powers had turned away, their fear stronger than their honor. Still, the president remained resolute. We cannot rely on others. President Alara Mendoza told her advisors, "We are the last line. Our unity will be our strength." The news media carried her words to every corner of Earth. Public morale soared. Songs, stories, and symbols of resilience spread like wildfire. Humanity embraced its identity as the galaxy's underdog, alone but unbroken. Outside the political and military centers, families prepared for the worst. Cities fortified themselves, civilians built shelters, and communities shared resources. Fear was tempered by a deep and growing pride. As weeks passed, reports arrived from the outer colonies, small skirmishes and hit-and-run attacks against Voidborn scouts. Earth's new warriors met them with fire and resolve, their tactics unpredictable and fierce. Marcus led one of the first counterattacks against overwhelming odds. His squad ambushed an enemy scouting fleet, destroying several ships before slipping back into the shadows of a nearby asteroid belt. The victory was small, but symbolic. Back on Earth, as the sun set behind a sky filled with stars and warships, Marcus reflected on the transformation sweeping his world. Humanity had been forced to become warriors, scientists, and leaders overnight. The galaxy might have abandoned them, but Earth was forging a new destiny, one shaped by grit, unity, and the refusal to surrender. They would fight alone, and they would fight with everything they had. The outer colonies were the first line of defense, distant, isolated worlds meant to buffer Earth from the relentless advance of the Voidborn. On the mining planet Ars-4, the silence was broken by the ominous hum of approaching warships. The enemy was coming. Captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Resolute, a heavily modified frigate newly commissioned from Earth's shipyards. His crew was tense but ready. They had trained for this moment, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of battle. Enemy fleet detected, reported Lieutenant Zerakim, monitoring the sensors. They're larger and better armed than anticipated. Marcus nodded. We expected that. Brace for engagement. As the Voidborn fleet closed in, their ship seemed almost alive, smooth. Dark hulls shifting shapes, weapons charging with an eerie glow. The enemy was calculated and cold, its movements efficient and relentless. The first salvo struck the Resolute shields with bone-rattling force. The crew responded with precision, launching missiles and energy blasts. But it was clear this would not be a simple fight. The battle quickly devolved into a brutal, chaotic dance. The Voidborn attacked with overwhelming numbers and relentless pressure, but humanity's warriors fought back with ingenuity. Small squads darted between asteroid fields, using cover and guerrilla tactics unfamiliar to the enemy. Lieutenant Zera led a daring boarding mission, her team leaping onto an enemy vessel under heavy fire. Using makeshift explosives and hand-to-hand combat, they disrupted the ship's power core, forcing it to retreat. It was a risky move, but one that sent a clear message. We don't just run, Zera said through comms. We strike back hard. The enemy's confusion was evident. They had expected an easy conquest, a race to be swept aside. Instead, they met resistance as fierce as it was unexpected. On the surface of Ars-4, ground forces held fast. Earth's soldiers, armed with weapons adapted from scavenged tech and human innovation, used hit-and-run tactics to frustrate enemy patrols. Their mobility and adaptability kept the enemy off balance. Communications between Earth and the colonies were strained, but messages of hope filtered through. Civilians sheltered underground, watching as their protectors fought against overwhelming odds. Back on the Resolute, Marcus issued orders to exploit the enemy's momentary hesitation. Concentrate fire on their command ship. If we break their coordination, we can turn this fight. With coordinated strikes, Earth's forces disabled critical systems on the enemy flagship. Chaos rippled through the Voidborn fleet as their formation broke apart. The battle ended with the enemy retreating, battered and wary. Earth's forces had paid a heavy price, but they had won the day. In the aftermath, news of the victory spread quickly across Earth and the remaining colonies. Humanity's ruthlessness and refusal to yield earned respect and fear from allies and enemies alike. At a press briefing, President Mendoza addressed the world. Today, we show that even alone, humanity will not be defeated. This victory is a testament to our courage and unity. We fight for every soul who calls Earth home. Marcus reflected on the cost. Friends lost, world scarred, but a new reputation forged in fire. The galaxy would remember this day. Humanity was no longer just another race. They were warriors. They had taken a stand, and the Voidborn now knew Earth would fight alone, and it would fight to win. In the darkened depths of space, trust was a scarce commodity. The Galactic Coalition had fractured, its members abandoning humanity when the Voidborn threatened to consume everything. Yet, in the shadows, not all had turned away. Far from the public eye, quiet whispers of defiance stirred among a handful of alien individuals. They could no longer follow their government's orders to leave Earth to its fate. Secretly, they sent messages, technology, and supplies, small but invaluable tokens of support that rekindled hope for humanity. Captain Marcus Kane was among the first to receive these covert transmissions. During a routine debriefing, his communications officer handed him a secure data chip marked with an unfamiliar symbol. This came through an encrypted channel, she explained. No sender identification, but the tech on it, it's advanced, unlike anything we have. Marcus studied the schematics, compact energy cells, improved shielding designs, and detailed intelligence on Voidborn patrol patterns. The anonymous benefactor's aid was subtle, but effective. They risk everything, Marcus said quietly. We're not as alone as we thought. Word of these secret gifts spread quickly among Earth's leadership. President Alara Mendoza convened a closed meeting with her most trusted advisors. Whoever is helping us, we must protect them, she said. Our strength is growing, not just in weapons and soldiers, but in the knowledge that we inspire loyalty and courage beyond our borders. Lieutenant Zerakim was among those entrusted with integrating the new technology into their defenses. She marveled at how these enhancements amplified their existing equipment, turning human ingenuity into something almost otherworldly. These gifts are more than just tools, Zara said. They're a message. Even in silence, others are standing with us. In the war zones, the difference was clear. Human forces with improved gear and fresh intelligence gained the upper hand in skirmishes previously thought impossible. The enemy's confidence wavered as Earth's warriors became bolder, their strikes more precise. Among the secret allies was Thaler, a former commander from a species known for its cold pragmatism. His own people had abandoned the coalition out of fear, but he has stayed to help humanity. In my world, we teach strength above all, Thaler confided during a clandestine meeting. But your strength is something else. It is hope. It inspires. The quiet support bolstered Earth's morale, fueling the growing belief that their fight was not in vain. Children born into the war years heard stories not just of loss, but of courage, resilience, and unexpected friendship. Still, the threat loomed large. The Voidborn showed no signs of slowing, and the galaxy remained fractured. But humanity's fighters carried with them the knowledge that even in isolation, they were never truly abandoned. One evening, as Marcus gazed out at the stars from Earth's orbital command, a new transmission arrived. It was a simple message, encoded in the language of old coalition signals. Stand strong. You inspire us all. Marcus allowed himself a rare smile. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but in the echoes of hope, humanity found the strength to keep fighting. They were alone, but no longer lonely. They were the last defenders of a fragile peace, and they would fight on, no matter the cost. The Voidborn fleet darkened the skies above Earth, a massive armada casting shadows over the blue planet below. Months of relentless combat had sharpened humanity's resolve, but this was different. This was the heart of their world, the final battleground. From his command post deep beneath the surface, Captain Marcus Kane watched as the enemy ships formed an imposing blockade. The air outside was thick with anticipation. Cities fortified their walls. Civilians braced for the worst. Sir, sensors detect multiple waves of enemy fighters preparing to launch, reported Lieutenant Zerakim. Her voice was steady, but the tension was palpable. Marcus tightened his grip on the console. That we meet them head on. Prepare all defensive systems and deploy the rapid response teams. This is our home. We fight here, and we fight hard. The government had mobilized every resource. Earth's military was no longer just a force. It was a symbol of unyielding defiance. Warships blazed through the atmosphere, intercepting enemy fighters with relentless precision. Anti-air turrets unleashed torrents of fire against incoming swarms. On the ground, soldiers moved like shadows through city ruins and fortified bunkers. Civilians were evacuated or sheltered underground, but many volunteered to support the defense repair crews, medics, engineers, all working tirelessly. The enemy's first assault struck with brutal efficiency. Voidborn fighters surged over Earth cities, testing defenses and probing for weaknesses. Explosions rocked the skyline as fires burned and alarms blared, but humanity's warriors were ready. Pilots like Lieutenant Zara danced through the chaos, weaving through enemy fire to strike critical targets. Ground forces launched counterattacks with unexpected ferocity. Marcus coordinated from the command center, directing forces with calm determination. His voice cut through the tension. Hold the line. Protect the civilians. We are not just fighting for Earth, we are fighting for every soul who calls this planet home. The siege dragged on for days, each wave more desperate than the last. The enemy's technology was formidable, but their tactics were predictable. Human ingenuity and sheer willpower turned the tide repeatedly. In one fierce encounter, Marcus led a rapid response squad to retake a key energy relay station that had fallen to Voidborn forces. The operation was brutal close-quarters combat, makeshift explosives, and a resolve that never faltered. As the station's power was restored, communications lit up with messages of victory. Across the network, hope surged through the defenders like a wave. Yet the cost was high. Cities bore scars of battle, families mourned lost loved ones, and exhaustion threatened to break even the strongest. At a quiet moment, Marcus stood on a balcony overlooking the battered cityscape. The night was silent, but for the distant hum of battle. He clenched his jaw, knowing the fight was far from over. We are tested, he murmured, but we do not break. News feeds broadcast stories of bravery, soldiers shielding civilians, engineers repairing vital systems under fire, children sending messages of support to the front lines. The world united in a collective heartbeat of resistance. Across the globe, citizens lit candles, sang songs of hope, and held fast to the belief that Earth would endure. As the enemy regrouped for another assault, the defenders steeled themselves. The siege was not just a battle for territory, it was a battle for humanity's very soul. And in the face of overwhelming odds, Earth's warriors stood unwavering. They fought not just because they must, but because they would never surrender. Because they were humanity. Because they fought alone and they fought to win. The siege had tested Earth's defenders in every way imaginable. For weeks, the planet endured relentless assaults that threatened to crush humanity's spirit. Yet, within the chaos, a spark of hope ignited a turning point born of courage, ingenuity, and unyielding will. Captain Marcus Kane stood at the helm of the newly commissioned battlecruiser Vanguard, a symbol of humanity's resilience. Its sleek hull was outfitted with the latest technology, much of it derived from the mysterious gifts Earth had received from secret allies. The Vanguard was more than a ship, it was a statement. Enemy fleet detected approaching the eastern perimeter, reported Lieutenant Zarakim from the sensor ray. They're moving faster and in larger numbers than before. Marcus gritted his teeth. Then we meet them head-on. Prepare all systems. This is our moment. The battle began with the deafening roar of weapons firing across the void. Voidborn warships surged forward, confident in their superiority. But the Vanguard and its escort vessels fought with a fierce determination. That caught the enemy off guard. Humanity's tactics had evolved. No longer reacting to the enemy's moves, they struck first, exploiting weaknesses revealed during previous encounters. Using precise strikes and coordinated maneuvers, Earth's forces tore through the enemy lines. On the ground, the situation mirrored the skies. Earth's soldiers launched counteroffensives across key fronts, reclaiming lost territory. With relentless pressure, engineers worked feverishly to restore power and communications to critical infrastructure, while medics braved the front lines to save lives. In a daring raid, Marcus led a squadron to disable a Voidborn supply depot orbiting a moon in the system. The mission was risky, but the rewards were immense. Destroying the depot would cripple the enemy's ability to sustain their forces in the region. The raid was a success. Explosions rocked the station, and communications intercepted afterward revealed confusion and panic among the Voidborn ranks. Back on Earth, the victory was celebrated not with fanfare, but with quiet resolve. The war was far from over, but the tide was shifting. President Alara Mendoza addressed the world. Today, we stand stronger. Our sacrifices have not been in vain. Humanity has shown that even when abandoned, we will rise. This is our home, and we will defend it with every breath. Across the globe, the people took heart. Volunteers increased, supplies flowed more efficiently, and the resolve hardened. Humanity was no longer on the defensive they were pushing. Forward. Yet, Marcus knew the enemy would not yield easily. The Voidborn were adaptive, relentless, and still possessed devastating power. Each victory was hard-won, and the losses weighed heavily. In the quiet moments between battles, Marcus and Zara discussed what lay ahead. They'll regroup, Zara said, and come back stronger. We'll be ready, Marcus replied. We fight alone, yes, but alone doesn't mean powerless. It means we fight with everything we are. As the stars stretched endlessly overhead, Earth's warriors prepared for the battles yet to come. The war had changed them, forged them, into something greater. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were fighting to reclaim their future. They were fighting to win. The Voidborn had one goal, to crush Earth's resistance completely. After suffering unexpected losses, they launched a massive assault designed to break humanity's will. The skies above Earth burned red with the fire of war as thousands of enemy ships descended like a storm. Captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, watching the chaos unfold. His jaw was clenched, eyes sharp. The war had taken everything, but he was not about to let Earth fall now. Enemy fleet advancing in 3 vectors, reported Lieutenant Zerakim. They're using overwhelming numbers and synchronized attacks to breach our defenses. Marcus took a deep breath. That we give them a fight they'll never forget. The battle erupted with thunderous force. Earth's defenders poured every ounce of their strength into holding the lines. Starships weaved through volleys of plasma and missile fire, their shields glowing under strain. On the ground, soldiers fought amid crumbling buildings and smoke-filled streets. Explosions echoed as human troops launched counterattacks, their movements coordinated with precision. Amid the chaos, Marcus and Zara coordinated strikes from the Vanguard. Using newly developed tactics, they targeted the enemy's command ships, hoping to sow confusion and disrupt their assault. But the Voidborn were relentless. Their forces pushed hard, exploiting gaps and adapting quickly. Losses mounted on both sides. The defenders faced moments where hope flickered dangerously close to fading in the heat of battle. Marcus received word of a critical breach near a civilian sector. Without hesitation, he ordered a squadron to assist, knowing that protecting the people was as vital as winning the fight. Zara led the squadron into the fray, her voice steady despite the danger. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. The squadron's arrival turned the tide in that sector, buying precious time for evacuations and reinforcing defenses. As the battle raged on, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought humanity here from abandonment to defiance. Every scar, every loss had forged an unbreakable spirit. Hours passed like days. Exhaustion gnawed at the defenders, but their resolve never wavered. When dawn finally broke over the battered horizon, the Voidborn forces, though diminished, began to withdraw. Victory had come at a terrible cost, but Earth stood. The war was far from over. But the crucible of fire had proven one truth. Humanity fought not just with weapons, but with heart. They were survivors. They were warriors. They were alone but never defeated. The battle-scarred skies over Earth began to clear, revealing a dawn tinged with both sorrow and hope. The Voidborn, battered and broken, retreated into the void, at least for now. Humanity had stood its ground when every other race had abandoned them. Captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, the warship now a symbol of Earth's resilience. The crew worked tirelessly, tending to the wounded, repairing systems, and preparing for what might come next. Status report, Marcus demanded, voice steady despite the fatigue weighing on him. Lieutenant Zerakim's eyes reflected the same exhaustion. We held the line. Losses are heavy, but morale is high. The enemy fleet's retreat is confirmed. Marcus nodded, allowing himself a brief moment of relief. They thought they could break us by isolating us. They thought we'd crumble, but they were wrong. Back on Earth, celebrations were tempered by remembrance. Monuments were raised for the fallen. Stories told of heroism and sacrifice. The planet bore scars of war, but it also bore a new spirit, one of unity and determination. President Alara Mendoza addressed the world, her voice carrying a message that resonated far beyond Earth's atmosphere. Today, we are proof that even when abandoned, humanity will never surrender. We fight alone if we must, but we fight with everything we have. This victory is not just ours, it is a beacon to every soul in the galaxy that refuses to give up. In the months that followed, Earth rebuilt, stronger and wiser. Technology, gleaned from secret allies and hard-won battles, propelled humanity forward. New alliances began to form, tentative but hopeful, inspired by Earth's unyielding stand. Marcus looked to the stars, knowing the void-born threat was not gone forever. But humanity had changed. They were no longer the underdogs. They were warriors, forged in fire, united by a cause greater than survival. "We're alone," Marcus said quietly to Zara during a rare moment of calm. "But that loneliness has made us stronger. It's our greatest strength." Zara smiled, a fierce pride in her eyes. "Then we fight alone, and we fight to win." The galaxy had turned its back on humanity, but Earth had risen against overwhelming odds. They had carved a path of defiance and hope, and the story of humanity alone, unbroken and unstoppable, had only just begun.